Look at McQueen. McQueen is crazy. The two of us got along pretty well. McQueen looked at me like I was his brother. People loved James Garner, who played the lead role in Maverick and The Rockford Files. He was honest, funny, and charming, but he kept one story secret for many years. His work on The Great Escape was more than just a big step forward in movies. It was the scene of a bad fight with Steve McQueen, who is one of the most mysterious stars in Hollywood. Now, a long time after Garner's death, his honest comments about McQueen have come to light, showing a side of their friendship that few people could have imagined. What did Garner take with him when he died? Finally, the truth is out. But before we talk about these shocking new details, it's important to look back at the early events that linked James Garner and Steve McQueen. James Garner's fights that were never told. He was more than just a Hollywood star, James Garner. He dealt with huge problems and overcame them to become one of the most beloved artists of his time. He was known for having a natural charm that brought characters to life like the sneaky gambler Brett Maverick and the calm Jim Rockford. He left a lasting mark on both TV and movies. For Garner, his early years were not easy at all. He was born James Scott Garner on April 7, 1928, in Denver, Oklahoma. He lost his mother when he was 5 years old during a sad abortion gone wrong. He grew up during the Great Depression. Weldon Garner, Garner's father, ran a hardware shop but had a hard time taking care of him and his two older brothers after his wife died. When a fire destroyed the family hardware shop, Weldon drank too much, which had terrible results. The boys Garner were ignored and abused, and they were often made to sing for their food and were punished if they didn't. Weldon eventually got married again, but the boys' pain got worse. Garner said that his stepmother Wilma was mean, and he told stories about how she hit him with tree branches and put him in women's clothes to make him feel bad. Garner could not take it any longer when he was 14. When there was a fight, he fought back and beat Wilma up to protect himself. At that point, his father stepped in and stopped things from getting worse. But the harm was already done. In the end, Garner said that he might have done too much if his father hadn't stopped him. Not long after that, Weldon completely left the family, leaving James and his brothers to take care of themselves. Even though Garner had a rough childhood, his strength helped him get through it. He did a lot of different weird jobs. For a short time, he was in the Merchant Navy, but he had to quit because he was always getting seasick. He even worked as an underwear model for a while, which is a funny side note to the life of a man who was meant to be a Hollywood star. Garner joined the U.S. Army in 1950. He was in the Army and sent to Korea with the 24th Division's 5th Regimental Combat Team. He had a hard time in the Korean War. He was hurt by shrapnel from a rocket attack just 2 days after he got there. A few months later, he was hurt again, this time by friendly fire. He was given 2 Purple Hearts for these injuries, but Garner rarely talked about his service and tried to play down his bravery. One interesting but less well-known fact about Garner's life is that he got a strong dislike of garlic while he was in the military. This awareness helped him stay alive in a way no one expected. One time, his unit's meal was accidentally poisoned, but Garner didn't eat it because it had garlic in it. Also, Garner's quick reflexes saved lives. While on guard duty one cold night, he got a faint whiff of garlic in the air. He knew they were close because he knew that enemy troops often ate a lot of garlic. He told his unit and they were able to surprise the enemy, which probably stopped a deadly attack. Garner did a variety of odd jobs after coming home from the war. He worked as a gas station attendant and even laid rugs with his father. Paul Gregory, a guy who saw something special in him, came across him one day. Gregory pushed Garner to try acting and would go on to become a talent agent. At first, Garner turned down Gregory's idea, but when he saw Gregory's name on an agency sign years later, he chose to get back in touch. And that chance meeting was the start of his work as an actor. Gregory got Garner his first part in The Caine Mutiny Court-Martial, where he played a court member who didn't speak. For even though the job was small, it led to bigger chances. The next movie Garner was in was Sayonara with Marlon Brando. But his big break came in 1957 when he was cast as Brett Maverick in the Western series Maverick. There was no guarantee that the show would be a hit. There was a lot of question that it could compete with shows like The Ed Sullivan Show and The Steve Allen Show. But Garner brought something special to the part with his natural charm and quick wit. Within 2 years, Maverick was a huge hit, making Garner a household name and showing Hollywood that no one else could match his ability. There were other reasons why Garner quit the show besides his increased fame, but James Garner quit Maverick. As Brett Maverick, James Garner quickly became the show's heart and soul, charming viewers with his sly wit and natural charm. Garner's career was taking off after the show became a huge hit, but in 1960, a writer's strike shut down Hollywood. This led to a dramatic fight between Garner and the company that would change his career in the end. Because of the strike, Maverick could no longer make anything. If there were no scripts, there would be no new shows, and Warner Brothers thought that Garner would have no work. Even though he was becoming more famous, he was only making $1,250.00 a week. When the company suddenly fired him because they didn't have any scripts, Garner felt betrayed. He felt a fire inside him that made him want to stand up against the studio's unfair tactics. Garner sued Warner Brothers for breach of contract because she felt underpaid and mistreated. This was a bold move that shocked Hollywood. But Garner was used to taking risks with big prizes, both on and off the screen. He had a strong case, and in the end he won the claim. It was clear from the win that he was ready to fight for what he thought was right. Warner Brothers tried to make things right by giving Garner a new deal and a pay raise, but the harm was already done. Garner had lost faith in the studio system and saw himself as a puppet that execs could move around as they pleased. He made the brave choice to leave Maverick because he wanted to take charge of his business. Warner Brothers wasn't ready to let go of Maverick, even though it had lost its star. The show stayed popular, and Jack Kelly, who played Bart Maverick, stayed. But Kelly's role wasn't as interesting as Garner's, so the studio looked for someone who looked a lot like Garner to play the part. Robert Colbert, an actor who wasn't very well known but looked a lot like Garner, walked in. Warner Bros. Put him in the same clothes and taught him how to act like Garner, giving him the new name Brent Maverick for his role. He joked that he'd rather play a woman named Brenda than be a copy of James Garner because he didn't like the plan. The company also made another Maverick movie called Bo Maverick. A young Roger Moore, who would later play James Bond, played the part of Bo Maverick. It was a good idea to have more than one Maverick cousin, but the show missed a great chance by keeping the characters in different plots. This piecemeal method hurt the show, and in the end, both Moore and Colbert quit. Jack Kelly will have to run the show by himself in its last season. The studios had a different plan for Bo Maverick at first. They wanted the figure to have a British accent and know a lot about the world. They asked young star Sean Connery to play this part. Connery flew to Hollywood to talk about the part, but he turned it down because he wanted to focus on bigger chances, like the James Bond franchise, which would make him famous in movie history. Bo Maverick was played by Roger Moore, who had been in The Alaskans. It's interesting that The Alaskans also had problems during the writer's strike, which is why Warner Brothers used old Maverick plots for the show. People did notice this cost-cutting move. Moore himself saw that the stories were being used